Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. We are doing defense against position for 2021, part 5. So obviously you should go back and look and listen to the other 4. I think we'll have some interesting takes here looking at these metrics. And again, I'm probably, way wacky when it comes to metrics. That's just my process, right? Doesn't have to be your process. I'm glad you're listening. Thank you, the 1 or 2 people that are listening. I hope I've helped you out with my 100 lessons and plus now with the DAP information I'm doing for you. Okay, so I'll kind of step back in my view. I'm looking at the complete forest now. I just wanted to know on on average across the league, if we divide the first I think 6 games and then 7 through 13 or 14 and then the late games, 14, 15 up to 18, I took the predicted DAPs of all the teams and looked at their populations. How you do that is called a box and whisker uh, graph or chart, I guess. And that's what you're seeing here. There's a box, there's a straight line, there's an X, and there are bars that have little, what's this? Not horizontal, parallel. No, it's perpendicular. 2 perpendicular uh, uh, lines at the end. So let's start outward. The perpendicular lines represent pretty much everything in the population, about 98%. So you can see I guess the floor in the bottom or the ceiling, floor ceiling, okay? And then the box represents 66% of the data. So 2/3 of the data is, as far as the actual DAP numbers, is here. So it's kind of a plus 10, minus 10. So really anything above 10 or below minus 10 are probably extremes. That's what the box and whisker is meant to show you, is that any kind of running back DAPs above 10 or below minus 10 are let's put the E for extreme. So these are extreme compared to the whole league here. And finally, you have the bar in the middle of the box. That's the median. So roughly half the population is above that and half is below. And then the X is the actual average. And most of the time, the median and the average are pretty close. And notice they're fairly close to 0. So that means my metrics of assigning DAPs is not bad. And, it's pretty close to 0. So if it's above or below, we know it's easy or harder. And then the extremes are marked out as well. So the question I had, does the DAPs change across the league if you look at 3 sectors of 2021, just using the DAP information? And so the green, so we looked at the red, that's early, the green is the mid, and the pink is the late. And we can see that there's a constriction of the DAPs. And it's like, if you look at 66%, is about a +5 and, I don't know, +7, +8. So what that's saying is in the mid of the season this year, running backs are going to be fairly clustered, close to a lot more close to zero than early and late, basically. So the extremes are going to be above 6 and below -7. So what we consider extreme has changed now in that. So basically, it looks like the mid part of the season gets easier for all running backs. And then finally, looking late, we see the floor and ceiling really take off and get extreme. So we see some really extreme good and extreme bad. So during the playoffs with our running backs, this is predicting that we're going to have a lot of extreme, even more extreme circumstances. And either running backs are going to have tough of the toughest or ease of the easiest, if there's such a thing. And so that kind of tells me that if you have running backs, it's very possible you've got some in your mix, or you should go get some that are going to be really favored in the last part of the season, and it looks like they're there to be taken. So remember, most people are not cutting the cake this way and not even considering. They're thinking, oh, this is how it starts, this is how it ends. I'm telling you that that's not the case. And the box and whiskers shows us that. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind a little bit for trading, for daily fantasy sports play, etc. later in the season versus earlier versus mid. So here is the teams with the sector, and the early are running back DAPs. And I've color-coded the easier teams that are going to have the easiest time, and the harder teams in red, and kind of near average would be uncolored here. So you can kind of see what's favored. I guess I should do yellow here. What's favored? Probably about right here. So if you're wanting to get a good start with running backs, these are probably some teams that should have a good start. On the other hand, these are the teams that are going to have a rougher start. Saquon Barkley has the roughest start. An injured running back with the roughest start. Jones, Mike Davis, Jacobs and Drake, Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, Carson, Edwards-Helaire, and Henderson, all are going to, doesn't mean they're going to do poor. All it means is that the competition, the defense that these teams are facing is going to be really rough on their running backs. So they may have to shift gameplay here. So if there's a tie in your drafting, I would tend to move to running backs that have a better start coming out of the gate. In other words, if there's a competition, you would think these running backs would hold on to the job longer than these. You would think the injuries would be less where it's easier versus here, which is harder. Just an overall guess. I have not, and that's something I will probably do down the road. And those few listing, feel free to do it. I'm giving you a bone there. If you really want to go for it and see, does it really make a difference? That's my question. I don't know the answer, but it's a great question. See, you have a question, then you go study it. You don't study it, then develop the answer to a question afterwards, okay? That's not how you do things. It's called redboarding. It's after the fact. Don't do that. Don't listen to people that do that. That's not good, okay? Not good. Here is the mid-season. And again, we have teams that should do well, teams that are going to be really tough. Swift and Jones again. So Tampa Bay's had a double whammy here. Look at Jacksonville, Carolina, New Orleans, Denver, Baltimore, the Chargers, and Chicago all figure to have a tougher midseason than the Rams, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Arizona, the Jets, Dallas, Cleveland, Philadelphia. Pittsburgh. So think about that as well. Okay. You could even take your notes for your running backs on your draft. You could put like a plus and a minus or a 0, and you could actually have good draft notes just using this information. And that, I would, when all things were equal, I think the late or the playoff might be the way to go there as well. And we'll see that. Here it is. Playoffs, yes, playoffs. Carolina, Christian McCaffrey is going to have the toughest go. Elliott, Michael Carter, and Coleman. Jones again. Aaron Jones at Green Bay. Barkley's going to be under pressure throughout the season. Buffalo. Okay. Denver. Melvin Gordon or the rookie guy. Jonathan Taylor. Hey, looking good. Eckler. Okay. James Robinson comes alive. New England. Whoever's the dog there. San Francisco. Whoever the dog there is. Montgomery. Some of these running backs might win your league right here. Check this out. This is nice. I like this kind of data. I like these profiles. It inspires me to think a little bit deeper in my drafts. At least I think so. Okay. So we almost have the exact opposite for the quarterbacks this season. Lo and behold, it looks like the earliest part is going to have kind of a very crowded area near 0. So I'm not sure anybody's really, 66% of the quarterbacks in the league are pretty much got a fairly okay schedule there. That's what that smaller box says. And there are some extremes. Those little dots mean those are the extreme of the extreme. So there's a couple that are really out there that figure to have a very tough start in the early part. Mid-season, there's going to be a broader range of outcomes here and a little bit tougher show for most of the quarterbacks here. And look at some are really going to have an advantage and some are going to have some of the worst of the season actually in the mid. And then towards the playoffs, it actually constricts a little bit. And if you can survive this mid part, looks like you kind of are going back towards the early sectors there. A little bit lower on the floor, but not as bad as the mid. So the easiest looks like, as far as, and of course there's these two, but it looks like the earliest part is the easiest. I guess the worst case, there's less of the worst case scenarios. Maybe I can put it like that. Here are the earlies here. Minnesota, San Francisco, Tennessee, Baltimore, and Jacksonville are expected to get off with a bang, folks. So looking forward to some of those. I did draft some of those. The ones that concern me, of course, I don't even know who's the quarterback at New Orleans, but Wilson, that's not good. Is it Goff? And then the Raiders is Carr, and then Jones, and then Rodgers. I guess given the skill of Rodgers, he will be able to get his team out of this, but he's got a row to hoe there. So just be aware early on. And in mid-season, we have New England. So New Orleans gets a break here. Roethlisberger gets a show. Tua in Miami, Denver, the Rams, Indianapolis. Those are some good show right there. That's nice. Brady, wow, he gets the toughest of the midseason. Tannehill, Herbert. So those are highly drafted quarterbacks, and it looks like mid-season is going to be rough and tough. So be aware of that. Look at the outliers here. These guys just stand out. Minus 18, minus 20. The next one's minus 11. Big gap there. Big gap. So let's look playoff time. Frisco, Denver, Washington, Detroit, the Raiders, Pittsburgh, and Brady. Looks like Brady gets a shot at putting it together at the end of the season and slip in. He could do it again, folks. The way is clear for him. Baltimore, Minnesota, Dallas, worried about Dak. Cleveland, Mayfield, Tannehill, and Allen, and Hurts or whoever is in Philadelphia. They're going to have a tough playoff season for us in fantasy. So just, be aware, like I talked about trades. You anticipate shifting of the season into the next sector. What does that mean for your players? What does that mean for your team? Okay, let's move on here. Two wide receivers. So, as I look at this, it looks like early has the extreme good and extreme bad. There's a lot more. Notice the perpendicular line, the actual distance here versus there. So it looks like there's going to be some wide receivers that get a nice advantage, the best actually in the whole season right there. But some, on the other hand, are going to start out the roughest. So you definitely want to know who those are in your drafts. Mid-season, it kind of collapses and the floor and the ceiling come back. So everybody's going to have a better shot in the mid-season. But the playoffs looks like the floor drops again here. But the ceiling doesn't go up like we would like it. Now, we do see some outliers here. Okay, so it's good to know who those are too, sitting out there like that. That's very intriguing. So just kind of think about what that means. That means to me that these wide receivers that especially have a tough go, if their season flips, into the mid or even the late, maybe they're trade targets. You want to get them. Okay, so that might give you an advantage in the trading there, looking at this flow. Carolina, Minnesota, San Francisco, and New England figure to have the best coming out. But boy, look at New Orleans. Everybody's jumping on Callaway, and look at that. Wow, is that rough? That is an extreme. The Raiders, tough. And Detroit. Wow. These three teams, I'm really concerned about the wide receivers, because that's going to mean that the quarterbacks are going to be under a lot of pressure as well. In other words, the whole team's going to be a lot of pressure because of this. So just be aware. It may be the time to get some of these guys is, later in the season. Trade 4 as they're going to come out of this tough spot. Let's follow them and see where they go. New Orleans, look at what a bounce. So yeah, New Orleans is going to be extreme early versus mid. So you want to acquire the New Orleans. Look at that by a long mile. Jacksonville looks pretty good. Rams, New England, Tyreek Hill waking up here. Who's Brady? Not so good. Look, here's Seattle and Tennessee. Green Bay. There's mid-season's kind of tough for some. Minnesota. These are some prominent wide receivers that figure to have some tough mid-season. Just be aware of that. Okay? Just be aware. Look at that. Minus 14, 14, 17. Look at that. Whoa. Not good, folks. Frisco and Washington are off scale. They are so good. So Scary Terry and Samuel could have a great season and win you your league, as well as Frisco with Samuel and Ayuk there. On the other hand, Boyd and Chase, Cincinnati's got the roughest. Dallas, that's not good. Philadelphia, not good. Minnesota, Raiders, Baltimore, and Cleveland. Rut row. That is a murderer's row right here. So be aware. Maybe these are people you want to trade away at this point. Just be aware. Okay, finally we're going to tight ends. It's very interesting. It looks like most of the tight ends are going to have a fairly good early. See, look at the box here, but there's some extremes. The floor is the worst. So there's going to be some tight ends that are going to have the worst of the whole season, maybe. Well, late is bad. Look at the box here, how spread out the outcomes are here. Wow. So there's going to be a wide range of outcomes with the tight ends. But look at the ceiling here, folks. There's going to be some really good tight ends that are going to have a nice advantage mid. They may be good trade for targets. The playoffs kind of looks like we have floor, but a low floor, high ceiling, and still pretty wide in the outcomes here. So be aware that the tight ends are going to have a really strange season compared to some of the other positions. People are not knowing that. People cannot see this. This is not seen. Nobody is seeing this, folks. Y'all need to think about this. The one or two that are listening, good for you. So what does this mean for your team? Or if you're drafting, what does it mean? Okay. Early on, look at here. Kansas City. Kelsey gets a nice jump. Pitts or Hurst, nice. Logan, nice. Look at those three. Those are really going to get off the ground here. Fisker has a shot. He's late, but look at that. The fourth best. Nice. Look at Seattle and New Orleans. Everybody wanting Troutman? Are you kidding me? I haven't drafted him in any of my 50 leagues. He may surprise us, but boy, if he's that good, we'll see. And Green Bay is in here. Cincinnati's in here. Andrews is going to have a tough go. Kittle, Hawkinson, Ruh-roh. So look at some of these. Mid-season, New England. Too bad that they're maybe if somebody's injured, then whoever it is, you want to get. Miami, Gesicki helps us out. Pittsburgh, Troutman, if he's still around, he gets redemption at this point. Andrews gets redemption. Hawkinson gets redemption. Ingram gets redemption. Who's got it bad? Higbee, Jared Cook's got it tough. I don't think we use Arizona. Is it Irv Smith, Minnesota? Ruh-roh. Hooper, Njoku? Uh-oh. Kimmett? Uh-oh. So be aware, there's going to be some down in the midseason for those teams here. And finally, in the playoff, who's going to help us? Tampa. Look at this, Tampa Bay. Brady's going to do it again with Gronk. Look at that, just sitting out there. What a plum. Green Bay, Tanyan. Green Bay's gets a nice break here. If Carolina has a tight end, if they're still playing, they have a shot. Pittsburgh, Kittle could bring home your championship right there. Ingram could help you out. Gesicki. Here's Troutman. He's still in the mix. Fisker, Ruh-roh, minus 25. Cleveland. Hooper, Doyle, Mo Alley-Cox, tough. These are some tough deal here. Chicago, Houston, Dallas. Everybody talking about Jarwin. He better earn it at the end here. Kelsey's got a minus 9. He better get off to a good start. That's all I gotta say. I don't want him to get a little slow and then hit this late in the season when you need him to be the strongest. Okay, that's my DAPS looking across at the season using the Box and Whisper view of the game sectors, the team sectors. I think it's a great view. I haven't seen it done, and use this as a guide to help us out. So come back. I think I've got one more lesson in the DAP. Or 2, I don't know. We'll find out. Come on back.